Because we have brains, you guys don't. All right, let's talk about. Yeah.
So if I don't got brains, how I graduate? How I graduate? How I start?
There are lots of people who graduate but don't have the ability. Sorry? Look, you're going to take this to a different place. Hello. To go to school, to graduate, around the 19th century, there came this idea of what we call instrumental rationality. Instrumental rationality means the following. Imagine that you're a tax collector. And what happens is you're going to open your database and you're going to be looking at names, their history. It's not because you're interested in the people. You're interested in whether or not they have paid their money to the government. And so you're going to use your brain power, you're going to use your perception, you're going to use your knowledge and history to take advantage of a certain system and exploit the lives of certain people. That's called instrumental rationality, okay? You're not going to sit and say, okay, why do I need to pay taxes? It's not like you're going to be Henry David Thoreau, who's going to say, I'm not going to give the government any money because they're going to use my money, make guns, and kill people. I'd rather not pay. And when the judge said, well, do you want to go to jail? Yeah, I'll go to jail. His teacher, Emerson, of course, said, no, just pay the money and just leave, your jail. He says, no, I just don't believe. That's called being able to sit and think about things the right way. So just because you're able to go, to classes, sit there quietly, perhaps sometimes not ask good questions, write good essays, it doesn't mean that you're thinking. All it means is that you're following certain guidelines to the best of your abilities, and you're instructed depending on who he or she is. They'll grade you accordingly. Some people enjoy copy and paste. Copy and paste, but hello, in your own words. It's basically plagiarism. You're not really thinking about anything. The other thing is the way, for example, Thomas talks about why is it that people do not desire to be forgotten when they pass? Well, maybe he has thought about his question a little bit. But the way he thinks about his question and the way Ray thinks about that particular question, why will I be forgotten when I die? They come from very, very different places. Ray is able to look into the past, perhaps 50, 60 years, observe all the things he has done, and put a price tag on it. If I was to be honest, the price tag for my life, you can find it at a dollar store. It's probably $1.50. And you know what happens when you buy something from a dollar store? You wash it once or you play with it once and it just breaks. Now go to Nordstrom and buy something there. Buy a shirt and you realize that shirt, you can wash it 100 times. And when you take it out and dry it, it's as if it's new. So Thomas thinks. His thinking just doesn't have enough depth. So let's talk about what it means to think well about things.
I think you're going to talk about it, but I think you just put words to something that I'm trying to think about. Like the idea of like someone's death, someone's like thinking death. I don't know. That's a really good way to put it. I never read it like that, heard it like that. Like how does someone get a more depth to their thinking? Or like, I feel like sometimes you look at someone or just maybe it comes from a place of like entitlement or entitlement, but just perceive them as having like a higher depth.
You guys have too many questions. It's not right. Let me just wrestle with one, two, or yes, Thomas?
Don't you think like our head, someone thinks it's like dependent on what is important for someone, but actually very individual.
Yes. But I need you to find importance in the things I say to you, not the things you say to you. What you say to you is the product of about 20 years. Most of it raw, unseasoned, uncooked. It tastes bad, smell bad, look bad. I got about like 60, 70 years under my belt, and this has been my job for the past, since I was 11. It doesn't mean anything, but nevertheless, just throwing it out there.
So basically, Thomas is like American cow. You're like.
I don't know what that means, but Thomas is a dollar store, and I am Neiman Marcus. Okay? Now, as a dollar store, I think you need to pay a good amount of respect to Neiman Marcus. So please, be quiet now.
Wait, so he's a lamb and you're a goat.
No, he's a llama lion. My job is to just devour him. Okay, I'm sorry?
I didn't understand the last part.
It's okay. The very fact that most of you have been forced into submission, that they just sit there like nice, quiet sheep for an hour and just listen to me ramble on, is an indication that, yes, you came to class thinking that you're all that, but now you've been reduced to you're nothing. Nothing bad about that, by the way. I'm going to go back in time about 5,000 or so years ago, and I'm going to tell you a story. It's a very unusual, uncommon story. I don't know if this person was real, if he is a figment of someone's imagination. It's the first story that was ever written for us human beings. His name is Gilgamesh. I don't know if any of you in this class know or have heard of the story. It's before Christianity, it's before Moses, it's before Muhammad, before the Buddha, before Hinduism. It's a sad story, I think. And it's a difficult story to read, it's a difficult story to tell, it's a difficult story to hear. Gilgamesh has a father who is made of flesh and bones, but he has a mother who is a goddess, lives in paradise somewhere. And for some strange reason, this man and this woman, get together. How, why, I have no idea. How someone who lives in paradise comes down here and, beds a mortal man, but that's how the ancient people used to work. So they get together, they have sex, and the product of that encounter is a man named Gilgamesh. The name itself is an expression of a human being who's just going to be a very, very sad man. He's going to have a very, very difficult life. And symbolically, I suppose, it means that all of us in this class, we have a part to us that is made of flesh and bones. We do what Omar suggested. We think because life is complicated. We think because life is like a puzzle. You need to pass your classes. You need to think how or what you need to do to pass your classes. You are lonely. You need to figure out how you can get yourself in a relationship. And when relationships become complicated, you need to think to figure out how you can smooth things out with your companion. So life is nothing but a thinking process. At every stage, a different dilemma. In every stage, there are different questions. And so you have no choice but to wrestle with the things you didn't know. There is this other part to us, unfortunately. You have everything. And these uncommon moments, they come to us without any notice or warning. You just wake up and you happen to have this dark cloud over your head. You don't know why it's there. You don't know why it's there, how it's there, but it's there. And you ask all these questions. I have everything. I went to school. I have a great job. I have a great companion, great kids, great parents. But for some strange reason, I feel as if I have nothing. You know, Ray is a 90-year-old man almost. He has lived a full, rich life. He is a man filled with compassion. Most of his life has been trying to help other people prosper. Now he gets to the age of 70. He looks at his life and he says, I've done a lot of good, but it seems I want to touch something, but I don't know what it is. I'm looking for something, but I don't know where to go to find it. I don't even know what it is I'm looking for. All I know is that there is this longing, this yearning within me. And what you need to understand about just the name itself, just this man named Gilgamesh, he is made of two components. As Tolstoy would say, and I think he would say it very poetically, human beings are made of shit, but they also have stars in them. In other words, we are partly flesh and partly divine. We are made of light as well as darkness. It's a blessing, it's a curse as well. Now, the thing about this particular epic or this story is that not everyone happens to be like Gilgamesh. Everybody is cursed. They're just not as intensely cursed as Gilgamesh. It's not like people in Arabia never asked difficult questions. It was just this young kid named Muhammad who would go to the caves for almost 25, 30 years. He would just climb into the cave, just sit there, you know, like Martin Luther around the 15th century, bang his head to the cave wall and say, what is wrong with me? Why can't I be content with just having money, with working for this woman? What is it that I long for? So for those of you in this class who have everything and you don't have trauma inside you, and I suppose your only trauma is you're born, you have everything, you try at least to do the best you can, but it's just not enough. You know, we are beauty-seeking animals after all. You want to graduate early. You want to get yourself to Stanford, not San Francisco, because Stanford, at least the way you imagine Stanford to be, beautifies your self-image, beautifies your future. That's who and what we are. The thing you need to understand about yourself, as well as what this particular epic is trying to tell us, is the following. And I think Jesus is a great plagiarist because I'm sure he read the Epic of Gilgamesh. And in the epic, this is what his mother Ninsun turns to the god and says, you have given me a son who has no rest. Consider the saying in the Gospels. The birds have the trees. The foxes have the land. But if you're a human being, you have no place to rest your head. What is he doing here? He should be home, laying in bed, getting up, making himself a nice omelet, a cup of coffee, watching some news, go for a walk, maybe look for a companion, and then, pray that he just puts his head down and never wakes up. A painless death. It's great, but no. After all these years of searching and running, he finds himself in a philosophy class. What the hell is he looking for? For those of you in this class who want to find yourself in a place where you can rest, what this epic will tell you, you will have no rest. If you want to rest, wait till you die. That is your ultimate resting place. But while alive, you're always going to be seeking, you're always going to be asking, you're always going to be longing and yearning for things you may not even know, but the yearning doesn't go away. You know, Ray and I are both puzzled when we come to this class. Your questions have depth. You know, an 18-year-old raises his or her hand and says, I just played this video game. Have you heard of it? But no, these are not the questions you ask. You ask about justice. You ask about intelligence. You ask about death and being forgotten. You ask about love. Who asked these questions at the age of 18? Which means what? All of you in this class have a place inside you that is restless. You're not content with the tables and chairs of this world. You just don't want a grade. And do you know why I know you don't just want a grade? Because not a single one of you in this class have done any of the goddamn assignments. If you had any sense to you, you would drop the class. Not risking an F that will impact your GPS. They're all the same, really. Please, please, don't interrupt me. Well, you see, the grade is irrelevant. You just come here, knowing full well that if this was another class, another instructor, you would surely fail. No doubt you would have probably dropped that class. But now you come here shamelessly, without having turned in any of your work. And even more shamelessly, you raise your hand and you ask questions. Who does that? People who are not normal, and none of us are. Now, one of the nice things about this story, if you're able to listen well, is for those of you who are sad and depressed and lonely, for those of you who are kind of always are feeling restless, homeless, you don't need therapy. I mean, you could. It's a free country and it's free choice. You don't need to do drugs and alcohol. You don't need to do LSD or LCD. Just read good books. They'll be great companions to you, because all the things that you're going through currently, most of you, Gilgamesh went through 5,000 years ago. Drop your friends who are for the most part losers. Now, what happens when you're restless? Now, here are a couple of things you need to know. You can be restless without power. You could be restless with power. If you have no power in your life, in other words, if you have no cash in your pocket, but you are restless, you don't have the privilege to do retail therapy, to go to places, buy things, and pretend as if you have a self, an identity, an anchor. You sit home and you get really, really depressed. You know, it's like you have this car, you saved 10 years of your money, now you buy this car, you're excited. One day you go, you sit in your car and you say, okay, I'm in my car, it's a brand new Porsche, but there is no place to go. And you just sit in your car in the driveway and you tilt the seat back and you just go to sleep. Now, for those of us in this class who are restless but have privilege, have money, it means the following. You are restless You get up at 3. If I was to kind of share something personal, I get to campus around 5 in hopes to write. And of the 4 hours that I have before coming to this class, I can only focus on writing for no more than maybe hour and a half, 2 hours. And sometimes while I'm awake, ready to get dressed to come here, I say to myself, sleep till 6, but I can't. Is it writing? Is it for that reason I come to school? I don't really know. Now, Gilgamesh is a chap who has lots of power. He has great looks. Wherever he goes, Angelina Jolie's will ask him, "You want to hang out?" He has money, he has looks, he has power. He is, after all, a king of this place we call Iraq, Uruk. And do you know what happens when you're restless but you have power? That power contaminates you even more. One of the problems with Don Juan, the person who just beds every woman he can find, is that he's a very, very nice looking man. And he thinks that it is sex that he wants, but it's not. He thinks it's companionship that he wants, but it's not. He's looking for something. He doesn't know what it is. All he knows is that when he's around attractive women, when he's having sex, he has this dim experience, dim idea as to what he is looking for, but he never is able to actually obtain it, to grab it. He has power, but because he's an unreflective man, he just becomes addicted to sex. And he dies. He has a heart attack while having sex. Now, here's the thing you need to know about Gilgamesh. Sometimes the gods, if there are any up there, they look down and they say, we're going to give birth to a human being who's going to be restless, intensely restless. He won't be able to distract himself by getting married or having children, making money, going to school. He'll do all of that. But we'll make sure to remind him that there is this longing within him that he will never forget. So one day, the gods do something very, very funny. Gilgamesh lives in a city. They say the only way that this man can become a true seeker after philosophy, i.e. love, wisdom, he needs to have a transformative experience. And here's the trick. For those of you who want to change, for those of you who want to perhaps choose a career that you can suck the marrow out of life, you want to make sure that you will remain not so forgotten. This is what needs to happen. You need to find a human being who lives in the forest and whose name happens to be Enkidu. He runs naked. He lives in the forest. And the thing you need to know about these ancient stories is the following. Anyone who lives in the city is contaminated by the city, is devoured by the forces of the city. Their life is always going to be insufficient, incomplete. They're going to be sad, unhappy, miserable. As Freud would say, they are like this pot filled with water on the stove. And on the inside, they're just going to be boiling because of all the pressure society puts on them. You know, it's not easy working at In-N-Out for 8, 9, 10 hours, dealing with people. It's not easy sitting in classrooms that are boring. It's not easy going home and doing essays that you can't relate to. And yet you put up with all of this. Do you really assume that all this pressure that's going inside you will eventually just be flushed down the toilet? No. You're going to express all the pressures you have on the inside, race-related, gender-related, family-related. You're going to dump it on your companions, on your children, on your parents, on your friends, on your own psyche. Instead of being depressed at the age of 45, you'll be depressed at the age of 10. Whoever lives in the forest, they are untouched by the contaminants of the civilized world. Why is it that Muhammad goes to the cave? You think it's easy sitting in a dark space for 5 hours, not having a single soul around you? You go to the city, you're uncomfortable. You go to the cave, you're uncomfortable. Where exactly do you belong? You really think it's easy for Jesus to leave his parents at the age of 12 and be a nomad for the next 18 years? What the hell are these people looking for? They are tired of city life. And they know that their questions will never be answered by city answers. City philosophy. We love a Socrates because things ooze out of him organically. He lives metaphorically in nature. There is Gilgamesh and there is Enkidu. The name Gilgamesh means someone who desires to be young. The name Enkidu means someone who is innocent. Why is it you desire to be young? Because you've gotten old. Now, you haven't gotten old because you're 95. You got old because you saw your parents divorce at the age of 5. You got old because you were used as a ping pong ball by your parents, 1 week here, 1 week there. You got old because you saw too much too soon, and now you have to carry that cross for the rest of your life. And once in a while you say, I wish I had different parents. And how old are you? 6. I wish I was in a different city. I wish I had a different skin color. I wish I was this. I wish I was that. People get old in all sorts of different ways. The only way that you could restore your youth, find someone who has innocence on the inside. Innocence will inspire you. I want to tell you a story before I continue with, it's okay, death and being forgotten. I think it was year 2001. I used to teach at Sierra College. I got a call from my dean, Bill Suji, very, very nice man. He says, Amir, do you want to teach this emeritus class? I said, what the hell is that? He says, well, the class is called Psychology of, or Non-Western Psychology. And you know, you're non-Western. And it wasn't a time where you would consider such statements as racist or bigoted. So yeah, Bill, I'll teach the class. Who are the students? Retired folks. Retired like, how old are they? They range from 60 to 90. Okay. Now, you know, when you're young, you don't understand these things. You know, age and those awful facts of life. I walk in the classroom and there are about 100 students. Some had been to Vietnam, World War II. Some had lost companions, children. And I walk into the classroom and I say, what the hell am I supposed to tell these people? They have lived life in life. I have lived life in books. So I began to talk. And I see like 2 in the back tearing up, 4 in the back actually crying, 5 in the back. It's like having the Holy Ghost inside them, beginning to speak in tongues. Blah, 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 blah. And I realized something really interesting. That it may have been that I have lived most of my life through books. But I allowed these ideas to go inside me, not so much to create biases and prejudices. I wanted to feel the ideas. I wanted to take these ideas into life and see if they're actually workable. How could a 30-year-old man move 70-year-old people so intensely? And that's the thing about inspiration. Inspiration will give you wings. If there is anything old about you, inspiration, it's like Botox. It'll remove the wrinkles. You look yourself in the mirror and you say, oh my God, at the age of 70, I can fall in love. That class ended after 6 weeks. The new semester began. And one morning I realized, I'm teaching my philosophy class, the door opens and walk in an army of 60 to 80-year-old people just coming and sitting in my classes. The only way transformation will happen is through someone who possesses innocence. Unless you become a child, you will not enter the kingdom of God. When you read the dialogues of Plato, the speeches of Socrates, there are so many errors, fallacies, logical inconsistencies in the things that Socrates says. But who cares about that? There is something about Socrates. Socrates is an alpha philosopher. He has charisma, he has magnetism, he has spirit inside, man. And you may corner him once or twice, but no one cares if you've checked him, because ultimately Socrates will check you and mate you.